Hey, Motorman here. I got a great tip for you. By the way, if you just wandered onto this channel by some strange twist of fate, I'm a motor officer instructor. I'm the guy that makes the #1 selling motorcycle video in the world, Ride Like a Pro. I'm going to put a link to that below, of course. And what we're going to do today is we're going to practice our figure eights within 2 parking spaces wide by 2 parking spaces long. That's 18 by 36 feet. And this particular exercise is not for the faint of heart. You better be very experienced at using the clutch and throttle and your head and eyes, the 3 techniques that I teach on my video. So I'm going to show you what it should look like, and to tell if you should even attempt to do something like this, first you should try making a circle, and I don't care how big the circle is, let's say 30 feet, with the bike straight up at a walking pace. If you can't do that, you need a lot more work on the clutch and throttle. So I've got 2 friends here. In fact, you've probably seen them. If you see my Ride Like a Pro video, I've got Marianne Hamilton and Tim Hamilton here, and they're going to do the actual demonstration. So watch this and pay attention. All right, so the first thing that we want to do to make sure that you got a good handle on the clutch, throttle, and rear brake, as well as head and eyes, is simply turn circles with the motorcycle straight up at a walking pace. That's what Marianne and Tim are showing you right here. It really doesn't matter how big your circle is, but you know, hopefully 30 feet or less, you should be able to do that if you're really good with the clutch and throttle. You do not want to attempt the figure 8, 2 parking spaces wide by 2 parking spaces long, if you can't do this. Anybody can do this leaning the bike at 10 miles an hour, or at least most good riders can. But at that walking pace, you know, 3-4 miles an hour is difficult, so you must use the clutch, the throttle, head and eyes. Keep that head turned if you're going to the left, and a little pressure on the rear brake. So here's that same maneuver going to the right. Remember, the idea is to keep the bike straight up, because in order to keep it straight up, you got to be going pretty slow, and you should be able to go very slow using the clutch, the throttle, little brake, and your head and eyes. The person walk alongside the bike is just doing so that you can see, yes, he is going about a walking pace. Now here are the 2 parking spaces we're going to be using right here. 18 feet, each of them is 9 feet, so 2 of them, of course, is 18 feet, and they're 36 foot long. The point of this is to get to do this without going over the white lines or going past the edge of the parking space. Your focus should be the crossover point. That's that spot right between both of those parking spaces. Marianne's going to point out that spot. That's it. As soon as you pass that point, you need to snap your head and eyes and look directly back at that point. And you don't want to stare at the ground, so you want to look about 4 or 5 feet above it. Don't worry, you're going to see it with your peripheral vision. But that's your crossover point. As soon as you pass it, snap your head and eyes and look at it again. So this is what it looks like. 18 by 36. By the way, if you can do this exercise, that means you can do every exercise on the actual motor officer course, one of the most difficult courses there is. Remember, you want to try to stay inside the white lines. You don't want to go past the end here. And I get a lot of people asking me, is this hard on the clutch? Well, he's got his RPMs at about 12 to 1500. That's where they should be. Motorcycle clutches, the vast majority of motorcycle clutches are cooled by oil. It's not like the car clutch. The car has a dry clutch, so you got to be careful about slipping the clutch in the car. But in the motorcycle, they are designed for that purpose. By the way, this bike also has linked brakes. As you see, that has no effect. We're using very slight pressure on the rear brake, and it has no effect on the front. Excellent job. Now, Tim, who would you recommend performs an exercise like this?
It would have to be highly skilled riders only. I mean, big men, no women. Women can't do this, so make sure it's someone who knows what they're doing.
Okay, you heard that, Marianne. So Yeah, she's going to get on a bike and take a little ride. I'm sure she's not even going to attempt to do this figure eight because, you know, she's a girl. Girls don't do this stuff. You know, you want to look pretty in the bike. You got all the nice Harley gear and you're cruising down the road on your $25,000 bike. Stick with that. You don't want to try really sophisticated maneuvers like a figure eight between 2 parking spaces wide by 2 parking spaces long, because you're going to wind up falling down and looking foolish. All right, what Tim was saying, he wasn't trying to insult women, but you know, women are smaller than men. They don't have the strength that it takes to ride an 850-pound motorcycle. Sure, you could cruise on down the road, but ladies, you think you're going to be able to make motor officer type maneuvers on a 900-pound motorcycle and you weigh 110 pounds? It's going to be in, you won't. Okay. It takes no size or strength at all to handle a motorcycle like you see this little bitty girl doing right here. All it takes is technique. 3 techniques: head and eyes, the friction zone, a little pressure on the rear brake. That's all there is to it. It takes just a few hours to learn these techniques, after which you get better and better. And you keep practicing the techniques and you could do what this tiny little woman is doing on a 950-pound motorcycle. I realize you don't have to do this out on the street, but having the ability to do this will change your riding life forever. It's so much more enjoyable to ride a motorcycle when you actually know what the hell you're doing. Now, for those of you who think that we don't have any winding roads here in Florida, that it's all flat and straight, stay tuned because we're going to take you for a little ride. All right, so we're in Citrus County. This is Central Florida, West Central Florida. That means we're on the west coast of Florida. And we're going to go down a very popular motorcycle road here in Florida, especially on the weekends. The street is called Gobble, like a turkey, gobble gobble. The road we're on right now is US 41. And it's easy to find Gobble because there's this Circle K right at the corner. And remember, on a winding road, you want to use single file. You do not want to ride staggered on winding roads. If you do it single file, you got the entire use of your lane. I like to roll on the throttle, go in a little slower, roll on the throttle as you go around the turn. There used to be a great restaurant biker bar here. It burnt down, they rebuilt it, and then a disgruntled customer burnt it down again. So that's pretty much over. I think they had for lunch, you go in there, it was a steak dinner for $5 or $6, and you couldn't beat that. The place was jammed on the weekends. If you take a course like the one I offer, Ride Like a Pro, and you never train again, you'll revert back to your instincts, and your instincts are completely wrong when it comes to riding a motorcycle. It always works. So I'm going to do my braking before. I'm going to leave a little bit of front brake on, plant that front tire by putting a little bit of weight on the front of the motorcycle. You have more traction. That's the place that burnt down. It's a shame. You might have heard of Ozella Trail. I think that's a better road than Ozella Trail, because to get to Ozella Trail you gotta go several miles of dead straight roads, and I think the pavement here is in better shape than on Ozella Trail. Much less traffic here. Sometimes I use a little friction zone. Third gear is too high, second gear is too low, so I use a little friction zone to smooth out my progress through the curve. Another reason why you should get very familiar with the friction zone. It comes free with the motorcycle, and it helps you to control any motorcycle, but especially a heavyweight cruiser like we're riding here. Granted, this isn't the Dragon up in Tennessee, but it's some of the better roads we have in Florida.